Hey, just very quickly before we start the live stream, I should put in a little bit more light. There you go. I would like to explain very quickly my absence from the internet. I promised that I would put out one video a week, and I haven't uploaded in almost 3 weeks now. Yeah, I just wanted to explain that very quickly. Um, the truth is that I've actually have been making videos. It's just that I haven't uploaded them for different reasons. Although the main one is that I find them all cringy. Okay, that's my main problem. Hello, whoever's watching. Anyway, as I was saying before, the main reason why I haven't been uploading here is because my videos have been kind of cringy lately. Yeah, I've made a lot of videos. I just don't upload them because I find them too cringy. Salut Alex. So anyway, now with that out of the way, very quickly, let's begin the live stream the proper way as we do all our videos. Hey everyone, I'm Geekland back again here, and so today we're going to be doing a live stream today. Salut Alexandre. For a moment, there's only one person in the chat, Alexander. So if ever I start talking to him, that's why you should check the real chat if you want to see the conversation we might have. So anyway, I'm going to explain in French what we're going to in English first, and then in French what we're going to do today. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start a little series, a little podcast or live stream series about films that are bad, like bad films, and we're going to try to make them better while still keeping the main plot. So now in French, for our French viewers, aujourd'hui ce qu'on va faire, c'est qu'on va, dans ce podcast, on va prendre un film dont j'ai déjà choisi, un film qui est très mauvais, et on va essayer de le rendre meilleur en gardant l'histoire centrale, mais en essayant de le rendre un peu plus meilleur. And so the film we're going to study today is Prometheus, or in French, le film Prométhée. This film is the fifth film in the Aliens franchise and is by far the worst in the entire series. By far. I've watched it and I've watched all the other Alien films. It is the worst. Yeah. It's so bad. And if you've watched Prometheus, you know how bad it is. So, today what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to fix the plot itself and making it a bit less bad. So, I pulled up the Wikipedia article here so that we could try to see what they've got to say about it. Here, critical reception. May not answer all its big questions. Okay. Okay. Well, anyway, since I'm too lazy to read the entire critical reception part of the Wikipedia article, we're just going to talk about some of the bits that I didn't really like in it. Mainly just how the film overall, it took the premise of aliens and they tried to give it a backstory, which is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I love Alien. I love the entire series, and so I am more than willing to give them a backstory, but I just think that it was a bit too overly complicated. So, to recap, for those of you who haven't watched Prometheus, in Prometheus, you start off with a band of scientists who find out that humans have been created by an extraterrestrial life form. I should try to find a way with this light in mind. Yeah, anyway. They have found out that human beings have been created by these highly advanced society that they call the precursors or the engineers. No, the engineers, that's it. Yeah. And so they find on a rune an image of some humans that are pointing towards a cluster of stars. And so what they decide to do is to go to that cluster of stars, since we are in the future and, you know, like travel outer space does exist. Um, it's well, the rest it gets a bit complicated, but the simplest way is the scientists want to go to try to contact these creators, but so, since we don't have enough funding to actually get there, they enlist the help of company, which I think it's the Wayland company. Wait, is it Wayland or Utani? It's Wayland, right? Yeah, I think it's a Wayland company. Um, the Wayland company agrees, but secretly on board there's the CEO of the Wayland Corporation there, who's got another motive, which is he wants to go there, and try to find engineers to try to find a way for him to live after, to live forever, basically. I mean, he's already like very old, but yeah, he tries to find a way to live forever, basically. And so the way that they do is they go to the planet. They find that there's a storm on it. There's a storm on the planet, and so what is decide this? I can't talk. What they decide to do is just to go over, go take like a shuttle down to the planet and try to like scan the the place. So I haven't watched Prometheus in like a month or two. I should have rewatched before doing this. Oh, I'm so bad at this. You're gonna hear me go a lot, okay? Like, warning in advance. Yeah. So, afterwards they go and they enter into this building, and when they're joined there, they discover these ancient like cadavers of dead engineers. And they also find like these black pods with like goo that comes out of it. I'm not gonna continue the entire story afterwards from here. It just devolves into like this wacky plot in which like the goo becomes like this goo is like the precursor to the aliens, and so it creates like this like monster that looks a bit like a snake, and decides to attach itself and kill some of the scientists. Yada yada yada. Later on, they find an engineer who's still alive, and so later on, when they're able to wake up the engineer, they discard the engineers, and now they want to kill the human race. I don't remember exactly why. Should remember. You know what? Yeah, from here, let's just read like the plot on like Wikipedia very quickly. Plot. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we're just gonna start off here. Inside the structure is what they found. They found like this structure, like this big oval structure, that goes deep into the ground. So that's what they call the structure. Inside the structure, a snake-like creature kills Milburn, who is one of the scientists, and sprays a corrosive fluid that melts Fiffield's helmet. Fiffield is another one. Basically, what happens is that there's the storm picks up again, and so the expeditionary team, is then divided into two parts. There's everyone except for Fiffield and Milburn, who get back to the transport safely, but then Fiffield and Milburn have to stay the night in the structure itself. Yeah, very quickly before we continue. But melts Fiffield's helmet. Fiffield falls face first into a puddle of dark liquid. When the crew returns, they find Milburn's corpse. David is the android here, who you wonder whether he's good or bad. I'll see later on for that. David separately discovers a control room containing a surviving engineer in stasis. So yeah, while they're doing that, David he finds one of the ancient ones, which I like to refer as the precursors instead of engineers. Um, so I have an engineer in stasis and a large 3D holographic star map highlighting Earth. There you go. Meanwhile, Holloway sickens rapidly. Holloway is someone who is the main character is this woman. Okay, I forget what her name is, and Holloway, if I remember quickly, is her husband. I think right. It's her husband, or no, it's their. Uh, it's Elizabeth Shaw, and then Charlie Holloway is her like boyfriend or lover or something like that. Holloway, anyway, he gets sick, okay? So Holloway sickens rapidly. He is rushed back to Prometheus, the name of the ship, which is where the name of the film comes from, Prometheus. But Vickers is the captain of the Prometheus, refuses to let him aboard and, at his urging, burns him to death with a flamethrower. Yeah. She doesn't want whatever his sickness to come and contaminate the rest of her ship. Later, a medical scan reveals that Shaw, despite being previously infertile, is now in advanced pregnancy. Yeah. So Shaw, she becomes pregnant with an alien. Fearing the worst, she uses the automated surgery table to extract a squid-like creature from her abdomen. Yeah, basically on the ship Prometheus, they don't have doctors. Well, I mean, David is a bit like a doctor, but they've got like this big medical like pod, and basically what you do is that you go in it and then it can perform hundreds of different surgeries. The problem is that it's made for men, so of course they don't have something for when uh, for birth, basically to give birth. I can't talk. And so what she has to do is that instead she just tells the machine to cut open her abdomen and then she has to pull it out herself. Or I think that she gets it to pull it out for her. Anyway, from her abdomen. Shaw then discovers that Wayland has been in stasis aboard Prometheus. He explains that he wants to ask the engineers how to prevent his death from old age. There you go. As Wayland prepares to leave for the structure, Vickers addresses him as father. So then you learn that Vickers, who is captain of the ship, is actually Wayland's daughter. Afterwards, a monstrous mutated Fifield returns to the Prometheus. So Fifield, after having his helmet melted away and falls face flat into the liquid, comes up a bit. I like to consider him as being a zombie, but they say he's mutated. Returns to the Prometheus and kills several crew members before he is killed. Yeah. Afterwards, the Prometheus captain Janek. Oh yeah, right. Sorry. Prometheus captain is Janek, and then Vickers is like higher up. The Prometheus captain Janek speculates that the structure was an engineer military base that lost control of a virulent biological weapon, the Dark Liquid. He also determines that the structure houses a spacecraft. Wayland and the team, actually, it's different. It's tons of spacecrafts, actually. It's like these like ring-like structures, okay? And they're just like piled on top of each other. So actually it's multiple spacecrafts on top of each other. Structure accompanied by Shaw. David wakes the engineer from stasis and speaks to him in a Proto-Indo-European language. Yeah. That's something we're going to talk about later. In an attempt to explain what Wayland wants, the engineers respond by decapitating David and killing Wayland and his team before reactivating the spacecraft. Shaw flees and warns Janek that the engineer is planning to release the liquid on Earth, convincing him to stop the spacecraft. Janek and the remaining crew sacrifices themselves by ramming the Prometheus into the alien craft, ejecting the lifeboat in the process while Vickers flees in an escape pod. The engineer's disabled spacecraft crashes onto the ground, killing Vickers. Shaw goes to the lifeboat and finds her alien offspring is alive and has grown to gigantic size. Yeah. David's still active head warns Shaw that the engineer is pursuing her. The engineer forces open the lifeboat airlock and attacks Shaw, who releases her alien offspring onto the engineer, which thrusts an ovipositor, tube-like organ used by some animals, especially insects, for laying the and for laying of eggs, okay? Down the engineer's throat, subduing him. So like what the facehuggers do, you know, like the actual aliens, facehuggers will like come onto your face and then they put a tube down your throat to lay the egg, subduing him. Shaw recovers David's remains and with his help launches another engineer spacecraft. You see, there's more than one. Intends to radio engineers homeward and attempt to understand why they wanted to destroy humanity. In the lifeboat, an alien creature bursts out of the engineer's chest. Okay. That was slightly longer than I was thinking it was going to last, but anyway. So now we can actually start talking about a lot of the points. First of all is the idea of um, civilization that created human beings. That already is a big problem. Because think about it. A civilization that I'm just gonna make sure one last time by reading the Wikipedia very quickly. Uh, da, 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 da. Yeah, okay. So, yeah. Sorry about that. For a pause, I just want to make sure. Yeah, so, if I remember correctly, it's the engineers who either created the humans or humans are descended from the engineers. In both cases, that makes no sense. Sorry, I just don't see how it makes a lot of sense. I would have much preferred it if they, instead of creating us humans, they visited us or like they passed by. Because think about it, if you say that the aliens like pass by, then you could still have the idea of the two scientists finding like this star map, but in exchange instead of it being that the humans have been created by the engineers, you could have it in more of a way of the engineers like came down, like extracted some like materials, came down to like mine the planet, like like mine it, and and while they did that, they also taught the humans like how to use fire, for example, or do something like that. That would still cause a bit of problems, but then again, no matter what you do, trying to find a way for an alien civilization to talk with humans back in prehistoric times is always going to be hard. But sorry about that. Sorry. But yeah, at least that would make a bit more sense than we are created by the aliens, and so we have to and so all theories of like evolution are then disproven. But then I have to ask something as well. So, do the main Alien franchise that includes Prometheus, is that in the same universe or timeline as Aliens versus Predators? And that's something to think about. Like, is it actually in the same like universe? Because if that's the case, then you're talking about two advanced civilizations, both the engineers and the predators. I forget. I know they've got another name in the lore there. They've got another name apart from like predators. They've got like an actual name for their species, but I'm too lazy to look it up right now. Okay, shrouded. Very quickly. What are the predators' real name? There you go. The Yautja. Pronounced Yautja. Okay. So the Yaucha, let's just say the Yaucha for quicker, just for simplicity, the Yaucha. So you've got the engineers, you got the Yaucha, and you got the aliens. Okay. So that is fine. Okay, you can have like multiple like species, but the problem, uh, actually no, I'm getting too ahead of myself. Yeah, but like that's interesting if both the because then all of a sudden Earth, it makes a lot more sense then if Earth was chosen, because if the engineers like came and they gifted humanity with one thing or another, that would make sense why the Yautja would come. Because think about it, if you open the possibility to two highly advanced civilizations, then why would there only be the Yautja, the engineers, the humans, us, and then the aliens, or the xenomorphs, but I prefer just to call them aliens. Why would there only be these four species in the entire universe? But yeah, anyway, because that's always bothered me a bit with like the Predator series, which is why do the Predators come here to us? Like, what is the point of coming here onto our planet? If you like give them a reason, like you say that the Yauch, like this is completely like hypothetical, but the engineers, they created the aliens, and then when they got out of control, they created the Yautja beside them to fight them, to be a bit like warriors for them so that they could fight them. In essence, I'm basically just like trying to retake the plot of StarCraft. For those of you who don't know, in StarCraft, the humans they fight two other factions who are at war with each other until the humans come in, or the Terrans, and they then fight. So none of the three are allied with any of the other two. They all fight each other. So you've got the Terrans, but then you've got the Protoss and the Zerg. But what you learn in the lore is that both the Protoss and the Zerg were created by one race, which is the Xel'Naga. Which all of a sudden you start to see that actually you could retake that into the Alien franchise. You've got the humans, who are the Terrans, you've got the engineers, who are the Xel'Naga, and then the Protoss, who are highly advanced, not as advanced as Xel'Naga, of course, but they are quite advanced. They're more advanced than both the Terrans and especially the Zerg. The Xel'Naga, the Protoss are the Yautja, and the Zerg are the aliens, which makes a lot of sense because in StarCraft, the Zerg do not use any technology, or well, they use like a bit of technology, but it's mostly like hive minds and like very organic. So that's interesting to think about. You could have like hinted that. So, yeah, but now I've gone off topic completely. Sorry. Let's go back to trying to make Prometheus a better film. So yeah, first of all, ditch the entire concept of the engineers creating humans or humans being descendants of engineers. Like, change that entirely. And in exchange, what I would do is have the engineers come down and gift humans with something. Okay. Something that would also be something that would also bring the Yautja over there for later on in the timeline. Anyway, so that's the first thing. Then afterwards, another something that I did not like at all was the fact that David, the android, was able to read perfectly, and I do mean this actually, perfectly read the glyphs that were written on the structure. Okay, that is something that I really didn't like at all. That just felt like an Deus en machina. I haven't done Latin. I was trying to make a joke there of the fact that David was an android, so a Deus en machina instead of Deus ex machina. Actually, no, it's Deus Ex Machina because God in the machine. Yes, Deus Ex Machina. Sorry. I'm getting off topic. I'm having too many tangents. Sorry, tangents. But anyway, yeah. Um, that I did. Yeah, I didn't like. I get it that that David has had an entire time while the rest of the crew were in stasis to like learn everything. But the thing is that they don't have any of their like language of the engineers. Not even like back on Earth on the sites that they go to, they don't find like any of the language or anything. So that makes no sense. How is he able to read the language when it's the first time that he sees it? I mean, if I showed you some Chinese characters and if you didn't actually know Chinese before, like me for example, I'm French. I could have chosen Chinese, but instead I chose German. Uh, but yeah, if you show me some Chinese characters, I will not be able to read it at first try. Of course, after a while, if I memorize enough Chinese characters, of course I can read it. But like show them to me right now, I won't be able to read. And that is literally what they are doing with Data. I think, like I said, I haven't watched the film in like 2 months, so I might have forgotten some plot points, and I didn't take any notes. I should have. Uh, but yeah, if I remember correctly, he starts reading the glyphs perfectly without any mistranslation. I mean, at least in Aliens versus Predators. Yeah, I'm going to make a lot of comparisons between Prometheus and Aliens versus Predators, just to tell you, because I actually really love AVP. It's one of my favorite films in the Alien franchise. It's my third favorite. But yeah, in AVP, for example, one of the researchers, he is able to read like the glyphs that are on the Yautja temple. But with him, at least, it makes sense because they already say, first of all, he's a specialist in ancient languages. Secondly, he doesn't decipher them perfectly from the beginning. Thirdly, he tells you more. They start off the film by telling you that this temple has got roots in a lot of different places around the world. So of course, the language would also, eh, by that logic, would also be part of different parts of the world. And like I said, he doesn't read it perfectly. By the end, of course, he reads it perfectly. But then again, that can be excused slightly. But he does have a bit of trouble at the beginning deciphering it, which makes sense. You start off with not being able to. I don't mind if like Data could have read like a couple of characters at the beginning. I mean, like some of them would have been obvious, uh, and then later on he can decipher more and more of them until he can read it perfectly, fluently. But the thing is that I think that they should have had like that growth a bit, not like start give him the power from the beginning to start reading them like perfectly, flawlessly. So yeah, that's like something that I hated. Afterwards, like the fact that he speaks with the engineers. I mean, in the film itself, it like makes sense in the film because they say that they created the humans, and so like I read in the when I read the Wikipedia, like I it did say that he spoke some Proto-Indo-European. For those of you who don't know, most of the languages that we know, like most of the European languages, all stem from one language called Indo-European, Indo for Indian, because then afterwards you find the same roots in like Hindi and I think in Tamil, but I'm not sure. Indo-European language the is the earliest language, I think. Don't quote me on it. I haven't studied like ancient languages in a long time. Indo-European is the first like common language in like Europe and parts of Asia, basically, which is then can be divided into three big families, which is Germanic, Romantic, and Slavic. Those are the three big ones. For example, some examples are uh, German, French, English, Russian, to give you some examples, and also Hindi, like I said before. Which I mean, you get to notice when you start looking at like some like words, like two, for example, two in English, deux, two, deux, zwei, do, uh, dia. You see, a lot of them have got like D's at the beginning, for example. So you can try to guess that At some point there was a D in two. In English, it's a bit different, but apart from like, uh, with like romantic and with like romantic languages, a lot of them have got like two is D. Okay, so you can try to think that it had like a like two in Indo-European would have been something like D or T or something like that. Okay, like I said, I'm not good, so I could be totally wrong. I'm sorry if I am totally wrong. Uh, but just to clear up, that's what they mean by Indo-European. But then afterwards they say he's talking something that's Proto-Indo-European, so Proto-European, Indo-European. So even before that, even before Indo-European, okay, which is even harder. Like um, it's not archaeologists, it's anthropologists already have a big problem like trying to decipher like Indo-European. It's even harder with Proto-Indo-European. Then again, I don't mind because they are later, they are at the end of the 21st century, so I can understand that. I can understand that they science has gone far enough to be able to like understand Indo-European. Hello, by the way, whoever joined right now and left. Okay, great. So yeah. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, that I can understand, okay? Being able to speak in the film, they say that they are descendants or that they were created by the engineer. So I can understand that at some basic level they can have an understanding. So that I don't mind. Then afterwards, the main plot of the main, not like main plot, but like the main of like one of the big questions of that is left unanswered by the film is why did they want to kill Earth? Okay. Now that I'm not gonna tamper with because I find that's a great idea, like keeping one of the main like ideas for the next film, which by the way they never answered in Alien Covenant. They didn't even answer the question, so why? That makes no sense. You're gonna ask a question and then don't even answer it later on. So yeah. Anyways, yeah, I'm not gonna try to tamper with that. Like I've got some ideas, but I'm not gonna like shoot them out for a moment. Um, so yeah, uh, those are like the main problems that I've got with the film. Oh yeah, and the last thing is the black goo. The idea of the black goo in the first place, because then all of a sudden you've got a problem. Like so, let me ask you something, okay? What is how are the aliens created? Okay, so let's think about this. In Alien One, in the first Alien, well, you had like the eggs that birth the face huggers. The face huggers would then latch onto humans, and that's how you create the xenomorphs. For that, I can understand that. I can understand that. Okay, makes perfect sense. Aliens 2, they didn't touch that, except they just told where the eggs come from, which is the queen. Okay, again, makes total sense. You've got a queen that lays eggs. Okay, that's fine. And so now let's jump to Prometheus. Now, in Prometheus, they say that before the queen was created, there was the black goo. And so now, how do you go from a bottle of black goo and you go to a queen? Which is, I think, the part where I think I'll have to talk very quickly about Alien Covenant, the sequel to Prometheus that came out in 2017, I think. Yeah, 2017. Alien Covenant, in which afterwards, I'm not going to spoil anything, but um, the eggs, like you find David again, and David, he actually like brought one of these canisters with him, and he is the one who created the eggs. Okay, but still I find that to be a bit annoying because now you have to wonder, so afterwards David creates a queen, hmm? but not just one. He has to create multiple queens. And then you start to wonder, wait, that makes no sense. How does he create the queens who then lay the eggs that he himself make? Does that make him like a queen? It's very weird, especially in Alien Covenant. Actually, after the facehuggers, they okay, let's say impregnate. I don't like using the word impregnate here, but yeah, okay, let's impregnate the hosts when they burst out. It's not a chest burster that bursts out in Covenant. I am not kidding. It's a tiny xenomorph that then grows. And like, ugh. So then that means that there's a layer after that. So then once the aliens have been created and they become an egg, and then when the egg is born, a small xenomorph that then grows larger comes out. Then afterwards, um, when the queen is made, and the queen starts laying the eggs from the queen, when their eggs from the facehuggers burst, it's not a tiny xenomorph, it's a chest burster. Although technically, when you think about it, that makes little sense. Instead of starting off with literally with what looks like a slug thing that comes out and then has to like shed its skin and everything, wouldn't it make more sense to start off with a tiny version of the xenomorph, which then grows? Because immediately from the beginning, you've got an idea of what it looks like. Instead of like this slug thing that then has to grow arms and legs and a tail and everything. That's something to think about. Because I honestly think that there's a problem there. So, yeah. I'm getting tired. I'm going to try to wrap this up in like 10-15 minutes. So, yeah. I think it would have been better if they found a queen, honestly. Like, I think it would have made much more sense if, like, when they arrive, they find, like, this holding cell, like this prison cell on one of the ships with a queen on it, and then afterwards you learn that the way that they wanted to attack Earth was to unleash the queen onto the Earth. Or, even better, multiple queens. That would be even... I would find that even better, actually. Or just one queen would be more than enough to show off what I mean. And so yeah, afterwards, what happened? So instead of having like this black goo, what they do is that they've got like these, like you've got the queen, or actually to make it even simpler, you could say that the queen is dead, like an actually like dead queen, like you find like the body, like the carcass on the ground with the head chopped off or something like that. But yeah. And actually what you find is that you've got like the tons of eggs, and so that's what data not data sorry what David, not data, David brings is an egg, actually. So he brings an egg with him, and that's how he's able to study and continue his research in Alien Covenant. Okay. Yeah, and so then afterwards the question it would be, how was the queen decapitated, for example? That's where you would like put in the connection to the predators, in which now the predators were created by the engineers who killed them. And so that's what happened. Once they killed the queen, they then decided, the engineers then sent them to other research facilities that were going rogue at the same time, or that had like containment breaches of the same thing. And that's how the Yautja go, getting rid of them, and meaning that they don't have to be part of the story anymore. And And so, of course, the engineers think that they're safe until one of them gets impregnated by a facehugger, bursts out. Because for those who haven't seen the end bit of Prometheus, you learn that actually the engineers can actually be turned into, um, can actually be used as a vessel for xenomorph. Although I think it's called a protomorph. Let me check very quickly. Protomorph. No, that's Alien Covenant. Give me a second. I have to find it. So no, it's not it. So in Prometheus, yeah. That's a Dacon. Okay, so it's called a Dacon. So yeah, we actually do see that the engineers can be used as vessels, and they're called Dacons, the aliens that burst out as engineers. So you can see that one of the engineers was like that when a Dacon came out and killed the rest of the engineers, which is why there's only one left. Okay, it fixes a lot of it. Well, it doesn't fix anything. It keeps the same idea of the story, but it just makes it a bit better. I personally find it a bit better. So to recap now, with our new version, with my new version, the way that it would work would be simple. You would have, so you start off with the scientist discovering again this constellation that was imprinted onto like this onto the walls of these old civilizations that explains how ancient humans of a meeting between ancient humans and the engineers. The engineers tell them, show them like this cluster of stars. Okay. Later, once they arrive onto the planet, David starts off by not understanding the glyphs entirely. You could show him off like him reading, saying, I think this is how you open the door. And then when he tries it, it fails, and so then he tries it again. Hello, bonjour, who's ever watching this. Yeah, so they try and they fail. He tries, fails, like you could play it off a bit like a comedy sketch, although I don't think that comedy would be very good in like this film. But like you could have like a scene where he tries, fails, tries again and fails, but then a third time. Hey Aki. Aki's one of my friends. So yeah, afterwards, so then later on in the film, afterwards in this new version, they go down into the Aki, very quickly, just to tell you, I'm giving my idea for a new version of Prometheus. Okay. Don't know if you ever watched the film Prometheus. So anyway, later on, afterwards, once they go down, they discover this. They discover like the body of the xenomorph queen, where the head has been chopped off. And then afterwards they put on like in the film there's the scene where they accidentally switch on this hologram where they see the engineers running off. Well, what you could do there, instead of having the engineers running off, you could have like a hologram of the Yautja or the predators that fight and decapitate the alien queen, thus ending the menace. And then you have later, and then you cut to a scene where the engineers are talking or pointing towards the Yautja to tell them go off to this other like research station or whatever to help them because they're also having troubles. So that's why you get rid of Yautja, make sure they don't have to be in the film anymore. But then afterwards, you could go. They continue onward into the caves, into the caverns, of the structure, and they find like this engineer's body, but with the chest like bursting outwards. Okay, so you could clearly see that's where the Dacon came out of. Then afterwards, they could find a second hologram in which they that's what where you would put the engineers that are running away, that are running. Um, so yeah, and then afterwards, the storm kicks in, so they all leave except for the two scientists who stay. And then during the night, instead of them being attacked with by the black goo or anything, you could have, instead of that, you just have the Dacon showing in and killing both of them. And then the rest of the crew, when they come back the next day to get them, they just find like the dead bodies. And so then, while they're trying to find out the culprits, David then goes to the control room, finds the engineer in stasis. Then afterwards, you could have like a scene where they start hunting around during the Dacon. The Dacon is able to like, yeah, okay, yeah, okay. Very nice, yes, very nice, okay, very nice. Afterwards, the Dacon like can attack them. Uh, they are able to kill it, and so then they wonder like, what's that? Like they could have this entire like conversation about, do you think that's what killed them, or what ended like this research station? Uh, but afterwards, you let's skip forward a bit. We would no longer have a need for the part where like Holloway he comes onto the ship, and then there's the entire like attack part. I honestly found like that entire part was like stupid there. Like that made zero sense. I would much rather it like him being killed off by the Dacon, and then afterwards, when they return back to the ship, they get Wayland. Then they go off to the engineer. They try talking to the engineer. The engineer kills Wayland, beheads. That from that, I think that's perfectly okay. But then afterwards, instead of them going back, and then the entire thing where the engineer leaves to tries to leave, but then the ship crash lands because of Prometheus then kamikazes itself. I think it would be better if, like, instead of just having like a small team, then everyone leaves the ship instead. Like everyone just decides to leave the ship. Okay. Uh, because honestly, when you think about it, like, why would they keep some people on board? Like, it's not like the ship is going anywhere, and they know very well there is no one on it. So instead, there you have got everyone on the. Actually, no. Now let's think about it. No, okay, yeah. Go back to Let's go back a bit. So we keep it. The engineer tries to escape. The Prometheus like kamikazes itself into the ship to make sure it cannot escape. Yada. The ship starts rolling. The antagonist dies, and with only leaving Elizabeth Shaw, David, and the engineer left as the only survivors. Um, afterwards, afterwards, the engineer starts fighting Elizabeth. But then but then Elizabeth is able to uh, get one. But then David orders Elizabeth to pick up like an egg. Like we could have them, instead of them fighting up on the ground, in the outside, we could have them like continue fighting in the structure. Okay, so they fight like beside some eggs, and so and so David tells Elizabeth to come and like grab this egg and point it towards the engineer. So when she does, then the facehugger jumps out and attaches itself the onto the engineer. So there you go. Now we're finished with that, and then afterwards, she comes back to David's body, puts their heads back, and then David like instructs her on to like how to like uh, sew just very quickly like the patches, like not very well, but just like good enough for him to like being able to control the rest of his body, you know. Hello to everyone, to anyone who's watching this, by the way. And so yeah, afterwards, the later then afterwards, once that's done, they decide to leave the planet to try and find answers on the engineer's homeworld, which is where they grab another ship and then they leave. But then at the end, to show actually and to set up how to set up David in Alien Covenant, you could have David, um, like I wouldn't say like chloroforming her, but like suffocating until she passes out. Elizabeth Shaw until she passes out, and then right after he's done that, you can have like a scene where while he's suffocating it, the camera turns around, and then you see that David, while Elizabeth wasn't looking, grabbed a couple of the eggs, and grabbed a couple of eggs, and then decided to bring her over to one of them so that she could get impregnated, and so very and so that way we can continue onward with the story that you then see in Alien Covenant, because Alien Covenant I don't have much problems with it apart from like what I said with like the new with the protomorph. That's like my only problem with it. But apart from that, that's about it. It's still a bit complicated because I'm not able to speak correctly. It's like almost 1 o'clock and 1 a.m. here for me. So yeah, that's about it. Let me for those who's gonna watch it, please leave down in the comments like any other like bad films that you would like me to try to review and possibly find a way to try to guess the time, Aki. Try to guess the time. I'll give you 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Correct! Yeah! And so yeah, anyway, sorry about that. Yeah, let me know in the comment section any other bad films you'd like me to review and try to make better. Yeah, as you can clearly see, I'm not good at all with these kind of things. So yeah, I'm thinking of like doing like more of these episodes, like more of these like live stream esque videos. And so now, a little secret. Now, of course, some of you might have already seen it. Why did I say it? Her. Seen her. A lot of you might have already seen her, but for those of you who haven't, I actually own 2 cats. One of them is called Aphrodite, and the other one is called Athena. Aphrodite is currently upstairs, but Athena, during the entire time we've been talking, has been sitting right here beside my computer, right beside my PC, and so now I think I should pick her up. This will mark her grand entrance onto this channel. Hi. She is fast asleep. Yes, I know I'm waking you up. All for content. This is Athena. You might have seen her sometimes in the background of some of my videos because she likes to come in. Yeah, that's a nice time. Oh, sorry, cat. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. And I will see you in the next video. Wanna say bye for now? Wanna say bye? Okay, no, she doesn't want to talk. Okay. Okay, goodbye.